I wanted to clarify the staffing and the funding for the Sheriff's Department and the patrols that they do in the San Ynez Valley. I know that there is a whole post position, or whatever you call it, 5, there that has been paid for through the Indian gaming benefit revenues. In fact, we just did that process. But of course, it's always kind of retroactive. Correct?
It's become retroactive.
It's become retroactive because the state takes so long to, if they vote for the money, to have that come forward. And then after we had our budget process, there was a press release from your department talking about the impacts of that budget. And it included the fact that those positions in the valley would not be there because you didn't have the money now in your budget to go ahead and kind of upfront that money now. I'm assuming, hoping that the state might vote for that at some point in time. So is that the situation or not?
More or less, yes, it is. Let me try and walk you through what the process has become and what attempts we are making to change it to what I believe it should be. The process now is that the tribe pays into a special distribution fund in the state of California. That special distribution fund is used for a number of purposes. It's used to pay for the state gambling commission. It's used to pay for gambling addiction programs for people who have gambling problems, and for a number of entities, including ours, it is used to pay for public safety services that are provided to mitigate some of the impacts that casinos have on particular counties. Historically, what had happened was that we would, and what is happening is that the process was such that a local committee would make a determination as to how they wanted that money to be spent. Then the local entity would provide the service and at the same time request the funding to pay for that service on a reimbursable basis from the state of California. Unfortunately, with the state's economic problems, what has happened is that the payment for that service has become later and later and later. And for 2 years, under the previous administration, at the state, the money was withheld, and only in one of those years were we successful in asking for and getting that money to reimburse our services. So in essence, what happened is there was a year that we provided this service and did not get reimbursed from the state.
And that's about $650,000?
It was about $675,000 that we did not get reimbursed for from the state. This year, the state, and typically like many things in the budget process, this has been held hostage, if you will, and has been part of the debate and part of the process. This year, there's a piece of legislation that has been passed, or is about to hopefully be passed, that would provide for the funding, a portion of the funding to be paid to the 7 counties that are eligible for this funding, including ours. The problem that we have is that the funding pool has been reduced considerably from where it was. In days gone by, it was about $30 million, and our portion of that was $675,000 or so. Unfortunately, this year, the amount that is available and will be voted on to distribute is about $18 million, which is going to drop the level of funding that we would obtain from the state. Now, and I should point out that this is the problem really rests with the state and not with the tribe. The tribe pays X amount of dollars into this fund, and approves a portion of that to be paid to reimburse us. And it's not just the 5 sheriff deputy positions. It's actually a total of 9 public safety positions in our county, because 5 of those are the deputy sheriff positions. Another 3 are reimbursement for firefighter paramedic positions. and the city of Buellton receives a portion of funding, which they use to pay for a contractual sheriff's deputy. So it's actually a total of 9 public safety personnel that historically have been paid for with this grant. This piece of legislation, as I say, and I'm actually headed to Sacramento tomorrow to testify in front of a Senate committee upon the great need that we have for this funding, and hopefully it will be forthcoming. So far, the committee votes have been unanimous. It's a bipartisan support in this particular area. But as with many things at the state level, the amounts are dwindling, and we are no longer in a position in the sheriff's office to be able to, in essence, front that money and gamble that we may or may not get paid for it, as has happened in the past. I hope that sort of clarifies it.
Okay, but so it does. But I just want to clarify the amount. So the $675,000, that's just for the 5 deputy sheriff positions. That's not the whole 9 positions.
That was the portion that we were paid last year.
But that's not the Buellton portion or the firefighter, paramedic.
Correct. That's just for the 5 deputy positions.
So if we looked at all 9 public safety positions, we're looking at over $1 million probably.
Well, the currently in fiscal year 11-12, for us to pay for 5 sheriff's deputies, if we were to get full reimbursement for that, it would be $760,040, $760,040, and that assumes an average cost of those 5 deputies, and based on the amount that we anticipate getting, if this process is approved tomorrow and ultimately approved by the Assembly and by the Senate, the amount that we are looking at likely receiving this year would be $409,427. That's out of the $18.2 million that's anticipated in funding, SDF funds for 11 and 12, and that would pay for 2.69 FTE deputy sheriffs. So it would be considerably.
So that's just for the 5 positions, and so we don't have the figures on the Buellton deputy sheriff.
Correct, and then in addition to that, there would be the firefighter paramedic funding, and the Buellton amount that would go to pay for a contract deputy.
Okay, and so then, and even if we were able to get full funding for these 5 positions, that still just keeps us where we've been. That doesn't address
and actually where we currently
impacts.
are and will be up until the 24th, I believe it is, of June, when all of the cutbacks are scheduled to take effect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Sheriff.
So 24th of July, excuse me.
Pardon me?
24th of July.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Sheriff.
I'm a resident of Los Olivos for 28 years. I wanted to just have you really take another look at the protest and look at the negative ramifications to life and safety by dropping the Board of Supervisors' opposition to the expansion of the Chumash Casino liquor license. I'm not sure why our Sheriff, Highway Patrol, Board of Supervisors, and ABC has not opposed the expansion request by the tribal leadership based on the atrocious casino track record of drug and alcohol-related crimes that is chronicled in the police blotters for the last 5 years. All of these entities are entrusted to protect the public safety in the county and expanding an already very dangerous situation. By dropping this appeal, it will help protect the safety of not just the 3rd District citizens, but all the lives and well-being of the rest of the county that uses our local highways for commuting to work and back. There's nothing but expense and fatalities that will result if more liquor license expansion occurs, and there's certainly no monetary benefit to the county by expanding the casino's ability to get hard liquor to most of the areas of the casino grounds and gambling floor. This is just the first step. Unless things have changed, there's not even a liquor tax that comes out of these hard liquor sales. The last I was aware of, the only tax on liquor that is charged at the casino is kept by the casino and not paid to the state or county. The taxpayers are the ones that will ultimately be responsible for the added need of the CHP, police, sheriff, fire, district attorney, courts, and jails. The CHP has informed the public that as early as 6 months ago, they have planned on a grant to add 6 more officers to the ranks in anticipation of this liquor expansion. I strongly urge you to keep the appeal and represent the residents of this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, Board, Madam Chairman.
Morning, Doctor.
It's great to be here. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. Basically, everyone's either on vacation or working, and the hundreds and hundreds of letters that came in, I think, tell what the public is concerned about. Before I start, I always ask Andy to make a disclaimer that his paycheck is dependent on the tribe. So I think it's important that he is an employee of the tribe through CoLab. So anyway, these stacks of crime reports, this is 1,400 crime reports, and if you read them, you kind of get sick, so you don't want to read them, you just want to look at them. But, and that's only one page. If we printed the whole crime report, it would be to the ceiling, and we couldn't have carried it in. So these are the types of things that are going on. There is no other business in this state that could have a liquor license with this kind of activity. And it's beyond us why our public safety officials are not protecting us. So also wanted to mention that last night, Polo received the written testimony of John Echohawk, Executive Director of Native American Rights Fund. This testimony was presented on June 23, 2011, to the United States Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. This testimony is vitally important in regards to any consideration of expansion of business activity or land expansion of the San Ynez Band, including expansion of alcohol sales. Last week, Polo sent you 2 letters, one of which provided the record of over 1,450 crime reports and requested that you do not expand business activity or fee to trust land expansion pending a decision on Polo's litigation that is currently with the BIA in Sacramento that questions the San Ynez Band's eligibility per Carciera Supreme Court decision. Our request that was made is substantiated by this current testimony of Mr. Echohawk. On page 6 of this testimony that I am providing now to be in the record, Mr. Echohawk states the following: by calling into question which federally recognized tribes are not eligible for the IRA provisions, the court's ruling in Carciera threatens the validity of tribal business organizations, subsequent contracts, loans, tribal reservations, and lands, and could affect jurisdiction, public safety, provisions of services on reservations across the country.
Thank you, Dr. Herthel.
So I appreciate your
Are
attention.
you going to leave these reports with us, or are you going to,
You got 7 copies of this last Friday,
Okay.
DVDs, and then it's online, so
Okay.
I'd love
Just
for you
as
to
long
look
as
at.
I know. Mr. Allen,
And
you
then,
have, okay,
so we
thank you.
request that you do not drop your appeal and wait for the hearing, because you have seen no investigation yet. You have no idea what the cost is. Basically, we're looking at hiring an army of CHP
Thank you,
and
Dr. Herthel.
sheriffs.
Thank you.
to cover
Our
this
next
expansion.
speaker is,
I guess I'll start by addressing the comments about the people who are here and who are not here. This sort of looks to everybody I know out in the valley like a done deal. The sheriff cut most of his deal before he even told anybody in the county he was talking to the tribe. ABC knows there's a protest and they issue the interim license. Your agenda says hearing to authorize staff to submit the withdrawal. This doesn't look like there's a discussion about what's going to happen here, and I think that is what has discouraged people from coming. Plus, honestly, there's an intimidation factor to standing up and opposing anything that the tribe is interested in doing. Having said that, I will notice that only one person came to speak in favor of this, and that's a person who is being paid by the tribe. They are on his board. If you take out all the speakers in favor of it who weren't paid to speak, the number is 0.
I can't underscore enough what a huge impact it's going to be to the valley if we cannot at least find funding to fully fund the law enforcement, the public safety personnel that we have had at least up to this time, much less find funding to address any increased impacts that there might be from the enhancement to this license. And that's why I did ask the sheriff what those numbers were and where it was. Because not only the 5 deputy sheriff positions that are directly there for the San Ynez Valley, but also the one for the city of Buellton, and also those 3 firefighter paramedic positions, which are on call there at the airport and have many, many calls to the casino. So if we can't find funding for that, and I don't really know where it's going to come from right now, there is going to be not only not a status quo for public safety in the valley, it's going to be going in the opposite direction. And I just can't tell you how much that really concerns me. And so, you know, as this process has gone on, I had really hoped that I could get to a position where I could feel comfortable with the additions of the conditions. I think that the conditions are good. I think the new ones that were added are good and help to address some of the other issues, but they still don't get at these 3 main points that were in our original protest. And now, of course, we have this new situation with the funding and the potential loss of the public safety personnel that we had. So, Madam Chair, I do not support staff's recommendation, and I would make a motion that we continue our protest to the ABC on this license expansion. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? Mr. Allen?
Ms. Wolf?
Aye.
Ms. Farr? Mr. Lavagnino? Mr. Carbajal? Ms. Gray?
No.
Motion fails 2 to 3.
Do we have another motion? Supervisor Lavagnino?
Madam Chair, I'll make a recommendation to approve staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Allen?
Ms. Wolf?
No.
Ms. Farr? Mr. Lavagnino? Aye. Mr. Carbajal? Aye. Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Passes 3-2.
Okay. Passes 3-2. The board will adjourn to closed session.